Commission for July 16th. Has everyone seen the agenda? We'll need an approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Any public comments? We have no one from the public. Approval of our minutes from our last meeting, June 18th, 2024. Anything changes needed?
I move that the minutes from June 18th be approved as written.
I'll second it.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Moving to unfinished business, we don't appear to have any. I don't know if anyone can bring up that we might want to discuss. No? We'll have our report from Jeff, the harbor master.
Well, the marina is extremely busy this year. Continuing the trend from last year, we had a lot of, both in 23 and in 24, we had a lot of transient boaters in June, which is uncommon, I would say. But they've been extremely busy this year. I don't have final numbers for last fiscal year, but I believe we finished the year profitable, probably for the first time in decades. Staff seems to be doing well. Seems like Katie's reporting that there's 10 to 15 boats every day leaving, coming back in. So operation seems to be going extremely well.
Have you heard about if anything from the MAC race? Anybody contacted yet?
They were just going by on Sunday, I believe.
Right.
So usually we start to get a trickle back 2 to 3 days after that.
Yeah, okay.
But if you go across the bridge, you see that there's boats on the Riverwalk every day.
Yeah.
And that's really overflow. So
Yeah, that's good.
we're doing very well.
Bill is not here for the boat launch revenue, but we've got a copy with everyone there. It looks like it's just a little bit down, but not tremendously. And
I was curious, the metal plates, the bridge, the asphalt to the docks, we had more of them in previous years at First Street. Did they go away?
They were, yeah, they got ripped off by wave action and stuff. I can look into that.
You know, a bit of a step over the slime sometimes.
Yeah.
They're handy if we have them.
Yep, I'll make a note of that. I think since I wasn't at the last meeting, but we did recover the skid pier that was washed into the river channel. We worked with the Manistee County dive team. They used it as a training exercise, found it with their side scan sonar, put a dive team down, were able to put a buoy on it. And then we had hired a crane. They were able to hook to it, pull it out. And so we'll be cleaning it up and doing repairs on it and getting it back out.
Is that a dock that's currently missing, or is this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna wanna get it out next 3 weeks or so before we hit the peak salmon season. I do know, cause I read a resident complained that over the weekend, there was so much fish caught and processed at our fish cleaning station that they exceeded all the capacity of all the barrels that are in there. So I think, just speaking to the boat launch revenues, I would anticipate that those numbers will go up as the fishing continues to improve.
So are they going to increase the schedule of pickup, or how's that? Is that something that?
Yeah, so I reached out to our contractor that deals with that. They actually have, we contract out to have that fish waste removed, and then they keep it clean They do it a couple times a day, and then they'll adjust as the usage increases, decreases. They actually discount what we pay them by allowing them to put a freezer, semi-trailer in our cold storage, off of Veterans Oak Grove. And they bring all the fish waste from Arcadia, Pentwater, Ludington, Frankfurt, maybe not Onekama, but there's about 5 or 6 ports. They bring it, consolidate it all here, put it on that semi, and then it gets sent out to fertilizing and cat food processing facilities. So they're kind of centered here, so we get an immediate adjustment when that happens.
I have an additional comment there. I've experienced that the buckets used to be kept out by the cleaning stations, and now they're kept inside the freezer. And what I've seen is that they bring a bucket out to the cleaning station, fill it up, and just carry it back and leave it in the front of access to the barrels. And when you open up the door, all you have is like 6 5-gallon buckets blocking your way to empty the contents into the barrels. And I was wondering if there was a reason, first of all, that those buckets are now being kept in there and not provided at the cleaning station itself, or can we bring that situation back where those buckets are put out into the area of the cleaning?
I'd have to ask the vendor. I don't know that.
Then the additional problem is that when you go in there to get a bucket that's filled with fish guts, so you're automatically required to find a way back to the barrels to empty it so that you have a 5-gallon bucket to put your entrails in. And before, those buckets, when they were out there, the people tended to fill them, bring them out, dump them in a barrel and bring them back out into the position that they were before. And that alleviated the problem, or actually the problem evolved because the buckets weren't being stored out by the cleaning station itself.
Yeah, I'll call the vendor and ask.
Speaking of the situation where we lost the pier over the ledge, that's something that's deteriorating out there, and this is going to need a pretty big investment in the near future, is it?
No.
I thought it's not.
No, the pier that washed in is one of the, when I say newer, there were 2 of them that were rebuilt or newly constructed about 15 years ago. And they were made handicap accessible, so they're 5 foot wide. Those, the way that they were designed is a lighter gauge steel, so they're not as heavy as the original ones. And what we've noticed when we get a very strong storm surge, they'll slide, and this one in particular flipped on its side. And then, and it actually was way at the west end.
Yes.
And my theory is the waves pushed it along the concrete, and then it left that concrete ramp way on the east side, and then it was down, it was in 15 feet of water.
The surface that you back your trailer onto, at the end, there's a drop off. Right?
Yeah.
I thought you said that surface was going to need work in the next few years.
It actually needs it up towards the water's edge. The submerged stuff is in good shape.
Okay.
And it's, when they built that, if you think about the concrete ramp like this, when they built it, they built a steel sheet pile cofferdam around it, de-watered it, and then poured the concrete ramp within the steel. And then they cut the steel off at the top of the concrete. So the edge is held very stable. What I've observed is at the top end of the ramp, the highest elevation, you can see the wood pilings that were put in before are popping up through that concrete. And so there's going to need to be some repairs, and then the interface between that concrete and the asphalt is deteriorating, especially on the east side of it. So,
Less involved than I feared.
yeah, yeah. I think it'll be more patchwork. I don't think it'll require full replacement.
Anything else? Our new business, we have an upcoming event. That's gonna be the Thoroughbred Boat Club Show, Thoroughbred Cars Boats Open House, or event, September 13th and 14th. Wes was wondering if we wanted to get involved with another open house or just support what's going on there. I don't know if that's gonna be an issue or we just, I think Katie said they're opening up or they're using it for the event, the marina or the upstairs.
I don't have any details on the event.
I don't know how.
I've heard about it. I don't have any details though.
Yeah. Our next meeting is not till September then, or August, is it?
You have, yeah,
Oh,
in
we have an
August.
August meeting? Okay, I guess we can bring that up then again then. One issue a lot of people were bringing up and talked about was this no wake signage, potentially on the river, around the Manistee Lake, our jurisdiction, so to speak. I don't know if that's gonna be an issue, we're gonna make it an issue, how is it going to work?
It was probably 5, 6 years ago, we installed somewhere between 8 and 10 no wake signs within the channel. And it was at the suggestion from the Harbor Commission, if I recall. So I plan on doing I know a lot of those signs are missing. The ones that we placed on the breakwaters are certainly gone and didn't last through the first winter with all the ice and wave action. So we've got our pontoon in the water, and I plan on just traveling the channel and looking for strategic places where we can put some signage. I did go into our signage bins and I found probably 7, 8 they're different sizes, but we've got some stuff in stock, so I just need to kind of map it out and we'll get some new signage up.
One of the concerns was some owners of the Bayview condos that, with this new marina going in, worried about the no wake. Now, I don't think we really have much to do in that direction.
That's on Manistee Lake.
A little bit north of the launch ramp there.
Yeah, I don't know, I can't give you an in-depth opinion on this, but I know that there's a city ordinance regarding no wake. Unfortunately, the city itself doesn't have any way of enforcing that. We don't have a marine patrol, we don't have a boat. We rely on the sheriff and Coast Guard.
That's kind of where we were going with it.
I've suggested the harbor master should get a vessel, but it hasn't funded yet.
One with downriggers.
Another year or two of profitability. might-
Rowboat? You've got that beautiful barge.
It's beautiful.
Laundry on it.
Well, if you recall, geez, I don't know how long ago that was, 6, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, but a contractor brought a pontoon barge and parked it at the First Street boat launch ramp on like July 2nd and left it there. And so when it came to the holiday weekend, we actually had it removed and stored, and then we did it on a legal basis with the Marine Patrol. And then finally got a hold of the owner and required them to pay the equivalent of what they would have paid at the city marina for dockage as a storage fee. And he said, well, that thing's only worth $500. I'm not gonna pay anything. And so then we filed what do they call that?
Abandoned property.
Lean?
Yeah, it was a ceasage and something for abandoned property, so filed it with the court, and the court granted the property to the city. So then we redecked it and outfitted it, and our primary use is to set buoys, the swim buoys, and pick them up in this fall. But we are doing some upright work at the marina with it, and little miscellaneous things. But it's certainly not, it's not in shape for any kind of enforcement, so.
The sheriff's department's got a new boat, maybe they don't know what to do with the old one.
Very expensive boat, I hear.
Yes, it was. But well designed, just like the Coast Guard boat with the pontoon around the front of it, all the way around it.
Did you want to add that DNR info for the no wake, Jim?
Well, you know, the public and the request to no wake on public waterway. There's no question about it, Manistee Lake is a public waterway. And as a result of that, I did inquire through an opinion through a retired Lakes and Waterway Commission employee relative to Manistee Lake, and that employee indicated that it is a public waterway, and that if any private owners wanted to modify the public waterway, it would have to go in front of the Lakes and Water Streams Protection Commission for the state. And that there are avenues that they can pursue, because there are other locations in Michigan, such as Lake Charlevoix, Boyne City, Onekama Marine, that have successfully petitioned and provided breakwaters floating breakwaters for wave action. Any of the effort would be on the part of the property owners, as well as any expense would be on the part of the property owners. Enforcement would be through the state, specifically any sheriff action and or conservation action. But that process, he indicated, is not an overnight process. Years of inquiries and
Studies and such?
so, in my opinion, the thrust is to get back to those property owners and say, here's an avenue for you to pursue that would not be part of this commission.
Sounds good.
I have had experience back when there was more usable area in that, with the skiers, water skiers. And there was a complaint lodged with the Coast Guard because of the wake that was developed by the boat that was causing that. And when the Coast Guard came out and looked at the situation, the person that was complaining about the wave action was told that there was nothing really that they could do unless there was damage to the property that he was trying to protect. And he would then have to prove that that particular boat caused damage to that area. And so basically what they were saying is that it's a public waterway, it can be used in a fashion for water skiing, et cetera, whatever. It's just like being out on Lake Michigan. Once you clear that break wall, there's really no speed limit, but you are responsible for your wake and any damage to property or persons that are there. So I have not had any recent contact that way, but I'm assuming that that area there is not actually a no-wake zone except for the city ordinance that we have in place.
Channel.
Right.
Right. It's not a confined area like we have with our navigable channel that we have. It's actually part of the lake and a public waterway and can be used by the public in whatever fashion as long as there's no damage or maybe going against the city ordinance might be a little issue, but no damage to property or personal people, so.
And I think the ordinance refers just to the river channel. From the entrance of the breakwaters to the entry into Manistee Lake.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that their approach for trying to get that might not be successful, in my opinion.
I think they're just trying to be proactive to see what potential could be, and
Sure.
no wakes in everybody's mind is a different,
And like what was mentioned, when they purchased that property, they saw
correct.
what was available, what was going to happen, and I guess it's up to them to go ahead. Now, putting in the floating break wall is a whole lot more difficult than it was back in the day.
I'm sure.
In that you're generally using tires, and with Eagle and all their regulations, it's gonna be very difficult to assemble something other than maybe some sort of a solid structure that would not contaminate the waterways, so.
And then a lot of remain to be seen how big the marina will be, if it even happens.
So one of the, and I was just reviewing because I
Yeah.
wasn't at the last meeting, but I remember I did give you a copy of the
Right.
permit for Lakeside Social. They did receive their permit, and if you noted on that, they have a stone revetment along the shoreline, and then they have kind of a gangway out to the docks itself. And so that's how they were able to get away from the wetland filling, and because originally they wanted to put a steel sheet pile wall in. But that stone absorbs a lot more of that wave energy, whereas like at Bayview, where you've got a hard face bulkhead, when the waves hit that, they actually will double in size when they rebound off of that, because there's no energy dissipation. So, and they do make specific wave attenuating structures. It's almost like a floating dock with a kind of an extended curtain below them. In Manistee Lake, that would probably do a lot, but if you've got a big fetch, it doesn't, they're not quite as effective as you would think, but.
No more tires. That's what I've heard. No more floating tires.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was a disaster. Well, I gotta say that one person did it right and another person did not do it right. And as a result, there was batches of floating tires that were tied together, becoming a hazard to navigation because they floated away.
Just ask Odeka Marine what happened.
Yep.
Ask Odeka Marine what happened.
They're back in this year, I assume. They were there last year.
They are there.
Okay.
They paid a big fine.
Lakeside Social, is that still a potential restaurant
Yes.
someday?
As of 2 weeks ago, the engineer reported that they're still working on the design. In fact, we just got site plans to review for it a week ago. But we requested additional information. So yeah, it appears that's moving forward.
Good information, thank you. We've got the harbor dredging going on. It looks like it's moving along, only a little bit of damage or whatever, not the damage, but whatever happened.
Substantial damage.
Substantial damage, okay.
Substantial damage.
To what?
So we participated in quite a few meetings with the Corps of Engineers, just because we're, it's the city's harbor. or the harbors within the city. Attended the pre-construction meeting, discussed staging, discussed impacts on the beaches, what their operation was. Everything seemed pretty simple, pretty straightforward, pretty normal. Several weeks later, the contractor mobilized in the time frame that they had projected, and then they started bringing in equipment, and 2 days later, I was actually down at First Street Beach and saw representatives from the Corps engineer and had a conversation with them. Now, this is the week before Forest Festival, before the 4th of July. And so I talked to the Corps of Engineers. They said they had just had a meeting with the contractor. They stated that the contractor had chosen not to work that week and wait until after the holiday was completed. And I specifically asked about that because they had a blackout date in their contract, but the Corps had been emailing us saying, can they work some of those blackout dates because we really want to get the harbor open to the commercial traffic. So we were trying to kind of balance that. I was told on site that they weren't going to dredge until Sunday. This was on a Monday. And I had told them, I had expressed concerns that the pipeline was along the shores, literally at the water's edge on First Street. And they informed me that they would be putting it out in the water, but it had to drape over the pier, over the South Breakwater. That was a possibility that the contractor had said in the pre-construction meeting, because if they had to go further upstream at all to dredge, then basically the contract was from the Coast Guard station out to the west end of the North Pier. They said if we have to go upstream at all, we won't have enough pipe to go around the South Breakwater. We may have to skip across it. So I said, well, I want to make sure that when you go across that breakwater that we can get the pyrotechnics truck off to get the fireworks off. And I really want that pipe submerged outside of the swim area, outside of the buoys. So they said, well, the contractor just walked down the beach, but they called him. He didn't answer. So they said, well, when he calls us back, I'll have him talk to you and you can tell him specifically what the community wants. So 20 minutes later, I got a call from the contractor. I returned and he said, no, that pipe's going right where it's at. And I said, well, you said you may have to jump the breakwater, but why do you have to do it on shore? And he said, because they got us dredging all the way up by that red shed on the Riverwalk.
Yep.
And I said, what the heck are you doing all the way up there? You were out here. He said, you know, the day after the pre-con meeting, they called and said, hey, we found a real shallow spot, and we're going to have you take a whole bunch of soil out of there. And I said, I'm telling you, that's a no maintenance zone. It's been that way that I've been watching it for 30 years, and I can't believe they're going to have you take anything out of there. And he said, well, they're not just having us take a little bit out of the center, they have us going full depth, full width. And I said, my God, you're going to suck the bank in, you're going to suck the Riverwalk in, and you're going to have erosion on the north side as well. Like, they don't do that. It's marked on every one of their soundings. And he said, well, we're going to start this afternoon. And I said, wait a minute.
And they
They
did.
just told me you weren't going to start till Sunday, so we got a lot of bad information. So I responded to an email to everybody in the Corps and the contractor and stated what I just learned. And it wasn't a couple hours later that they sucked the shoreline, literally that south shoreline down. The contractor told me that he noted everything, and that he said, well, we got over there and we saw how close we were going to be to all those structures. They called the Corps and said, are you sure? And they said, well, we're not paying you standby pay, start dredging. He said, I called them back a couple hours later and said that we're already losing structures. I can see them sliding down the bank, and we're taking material all the way up from the shoreline. And they said, keep going. And then it was a short time after that where they shut them down and stopped them. We've gone back and forth with the Corps. The Corps started, quite frankly, they started started building their argument that it wasn't their fault. And, the city manager's office was able to pull up all our permits for those structures, and we were able to show them that you permitted this. We gave them their own prints back that said non-maintenance zone. And then they verbally admitted that there were new people on it that weren't aware, and then they said, last week they suggested that we proceed with repairs and then file a claim with the federal office. So the first thing that we're gonna try to do is we're gonna try to remove the shed with a crane and barge and put it up on shore. And then the Corps has done 2 rounds of soundings, and they're transferring files to our engineer, and then we're gonna do look at what's out there and what kind of remediation we need to do to the net shed pier structure, but then to the river walk. And then we've lost some of the stone revetment that we put on there several years ago. The toe stones you can't even see them anymore. They've slid down the slope. So we're gonna have to re-armor a pretty major section of that. So that's why we closed it off, because
Which is done, yeah.
How many yards did they do?
I don't know.
How long would the repairs to all that take? Is it, once everything gets settled, then you can start working on
Well,
walk and
the steps are for us to get the data for the bathymetric surveys. Then we're gonna need to design the appropriate repair. Then we have to get it permitted. Hopefully we get the Eagle has been pretty good about turning their permits, but hopefully we get the Corps to turn that permit a little faster. And then we've gotta have a contractor install it. We're probably gonna have to front the money up front, but we've notified our insurance company. We're gonna be filing the claim with the federal government. Hopefully we get reimbursement for it.
Quickly, yeah.
If that drags out, is there a danger of more damage due to weather conditions?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, the last freighter that came through, and as they dredge the harbor and the freighters get fully loaded, just the displacement around the vessels will wash those slopes, and will continue to make it worse.
Not to mention the prop action that takes place
Yeah.
whenever.
Sure. Yeah, prop action, bow thrusters. But I mean, you've all been down on the river when those ships come through, the displaced water that rushes around, and it's
Interesting.
pretty incredible. But it's pretty much a one-on-one slope, so anything is gonna affect it now. And it's a short section where they dredged, but it's very, very,
I'm thinking a minimum of some sort of a steel wall.
well, we repaired a piece just downstream of that net shed when we did the marina. It was affected by the Seiche event, the Meteor tsunami, and what we ended up doing is driving 40-foot piles inside and outside of the river walk, and then put a joist, and we jacked the structure back up, so it's resupported with deep piles as opposed to the wood piles that supports all of that. And they're just not deep enough. The wood's just not deep enough to support the dredging that close, so.
Is there any city private properties that are being affected by this?
All of the property along there is city, all of it on the south side, and where that net shed pier is, it's being affected.
I'm talking about the housing that is above.
Well, the city property goes up to the top of the bank.
Okay.
And so when you see docks and stuff, they're leasing that from the city. But it hasn't affected the bank. It hasn't destabilized the bank yet. Thank God we put that stone in there, or it absolutely would have.
Yeah.
And before we did that, if you remember, there was a house, was that next to you or 2 down from you, that the backyard slid in?
One further towards the city, to
Yeah.
the east.
Yeah.
Yes. Hughes home.
So,
But the work that was done 2-3 years ago was damaged, the toast.
yes, the toast, when they dredged, they took the soils that the toast stones were sitting on, they're gone. And so the toast stones have slipped, and now some of that stone has slipped. The step to Lloyd's, or the stairs to Lloyd's is hanging.
Oh, I see.
It's not supported by any soil or stone, and it's twisted, and, yeah, so there's substantial work to remedy. I mean, it was a human error, but
Yeah, they were going.
I tried to warn them.
They were going at it hard.
Yeah.
Around the clock. It was loud.
Yep.
Now, have they left the area now? The dredging
I haven't been down
operation?
there today, but they were finishing up yesterday. Usually when they get done with their work, then they'll do a post-dredge sounding before they release them, make sure there's no high spots left, and they should be finishing up pretty quick though.
I was on the South Pier today. And they weren't out there working when I was out there.
Yeah, I haven't seen any, I monitor the beach cameras and stuff, and I haven't seen any activity there at all yesterday, and
It almost looked like they were.
and I
taking
did
a
not
break
see,
yesterday.
I did not see any equipment in place this morning when I checked either, so.
So, Riverwalk is quite a while, it sounds like.
Yeah, the city manager is hoping that we can get that thing open as soon as possible, but I'm afraid it may not be open this season anymore.
Is there any attempt to notify the public what's going on? Because comments I've seen online, everybody seems to be not knowing what's going on, why it's closed.
Yeah,
And
we've put stuff out on the social media, and there was articles in the
The
paper.
paper had a good article, yeah. Moving to better news, the bridge operations. We know that's,
Well, I just wanted to kind of update everybody on that. It was actually, it was a very interesting transition for us.
yes,
MDOT was able to open up, obviously, the 31 bridge to traffic. The day before that, we had to train our employees on that new equipment. And then, but then I have 2 new bridge tenders on Maple Street that needed to be trained after 31 was open. So while you were sleeping, we had guys practicing and opening and closing the bridges during the night until they felt comfortable. We actually doubled up staff there, so during the day when there was no traffic, they would practice with supervision. And but now I think we're in good position. We did this weekend. We had 2 electrical faults on the 31 bridge that happened. So the electricians were here yesterday making adjustments and just kind of working out the bugs of the new equipment and stuff. So, yeah, so getting back to normal. Certainly, you can tell the traffic is
Absolutely.
much better.
Yeah.
very good. Anything, other news? New news? No?
One problem area, you probably noticed this, but traffic that is headed north, it becomes, it's down to 1 lane headed north on 31, where you can turn left onto River Street. And that left turning vehicle blocks that for a long time. It's always oncoming.
So late last week, they actually opened up the right lane at the intersection south of the traffic signal, so that if you're trapped by a car turning left, you can go around it to the right and then
Good.
get back into the 1 lane.
Good.
And I think that was verbalized by community comments back to the MDOT. Because I noticed that yesterday that they had made that adjustment.
Super, yeah, it's a pinch point obstruction.
Yeah.
Well,
I've got a couple of other items, if you don't mind.
Sure.
We're working with, maybe Kelly can remember, SPKs. It's the
Splica?
Splica.
Yeah.
Can't remember all the letters, but it's a lighthouse association. They operate 4 or 5 lighthouses. They're interested in operating the Fifth Avenue Lighthouse, and to that end, are interested in working with the city to obtain grants to improve access, repaint, improve the steps and the ladders going up, so that they can give tours of the lighthouse and so forth. So we met with them and toured the lighthouse a couple weeks ago. I think they're hoping to have that open in the early 26. I got to climb up to the top. It was quite interesting, although I don't like spiders. There was a lot of spiders at the top. But one of the things that we noticed is a lot of the cabling on the catwalk had it was broke and frayed. And so I reached out to a local crane company, and when they unspool their cabling, their wire rope, there's no reuse for that. So they offered to donate that used material to the city. And then we had our welder fabricator go up and do some resplicing, and so we're working on getting that cleaned up. I had mentioned to the group about the potential kayak rentals. Looks like we're gonna look at that more closely over the winter and possibly look to implement that next year. And then because of the Coast Guard consolidating their operations from Frankfurt and Ludington to Manistee, they're going to add another, I think it's a 45-foot vessel. They're going to put a second one here and run an additional slip at the city marina. Those, per federal protocol, they like to have dedicated power to those and have more power than actually what they need at the slip. The vessel that's there now, they paid for some accommodations, but we were able to get them enough power at that last slip. But in order to get power to the slip next to it and meet today's codes, the electricians are actually recommending a brand new service down from River Street. So if you see any work that's being done, it's being done to accommodate that seasonal, but it would be paid for by the Coast Guard itself. That's it.
Will that increase the size of their contingent
Yes.
landing out here?
Yeah.
Do you know by how many?
My understanding is that they're having trouble staffing all of their locations. So as a result of being understaffed at multiple locations, they're bringing them all to Manistee. So I don't know numbers, but it will increase the number of people, but then the response time is much greater too. North
Is
and
there a
south.
helicopter pad there?
There is not.
Will they put one in, or they're?
That I don't know. I know they use the airport
Oh, okay.
here,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
And their air station's out of Traverse City.
okay.
But you see them doing a lot more training. And,
I have, that's why I was wondering if we had a pad, and that's why they were
yeah, when they do land, they land at the airport.
airport, that makes sense, okay.
Maybe that's a use for the tennis courts.
A pad.
The neighbors will love it.
I'm gonna vote
Probably not
no.
big enough.
I'm gonna vote no. If you remember last year when
We'd get the sand off.
when we landed in the softball field,
It was pretty smooth.
it blew all the stone dust off of the infield.
Wow.
And we had to do major repairs to it. The vendor at Fifth Avenue said it looked like an atomic bomb had gone off at First Street with the dust storm that it kicked
That
up.
it kicked out, yeah.
So this year that was for Kids Day. So this year they moved Kids Day to the high school. And then I believe that the helicopter was able to land on one of the athletic fields,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
which,
makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think landing in the sand is a good deal.
Unless you wanna sandblast something, take it down there when they're coming in.
Sure. Sure.
New cables on that. Is there, something that just popped in my mind, I don't know if it's good or bad. Is there would there be an interest in some sort of city banners in those cables, advertising the city of Manistee or whatever, you know, just using that as a surface to do it? Or aesthetically, would that be looked upon by the public as being something they didn't want? But it just popped in my mind. I thought I'd voice what was in my head.
I could see people not caring for that. It's also a very dynamic weather environment with waves and wind.
Sure.
And, you know, and those cables are really non-functional. They're more aesthetic than anything. So, so we're just trying to make it look better.
Yeah.
And I like that idea.
Yeah.
That's great.
I look at that whole catwalk, is a lot of scrap metal.
Oh,
It's not used.
Anybody got a hammer?
It's not used.
No, neither is your neighbors.
It's iconic. It can't go away.
Okay.
very iconic, yeah.
Good information, thank you. Other, I guess we covered mostly everything there. Anything else? New business? No? Public comments, no one's come in since our beginning, and any comments by the commissioners that need to address or would like to address? No? I guess
Who is organizing the cars, boats, and root beer floats?
it's the Thoroughbred. Boat club, boat.
Was it
I
Jamie
think-
part of that?
Yeah, I think Jamie Catlett from, she's got the barber shop here.
Right.
Yeah, that's
I
what,
think we haven't seen the special event form that I'm aware of yet. It hasn't come up to this manager's office yet, so we don't know a whole lot of details.
I saw the poster months ago and then it's still on my phone. I had a picture of it.
I remember seeing some correspondence from the city manager to city council that there's an event that's being planned and it's being advertised, but they haven't submitted the special event request. So whatever's out there is more knowledge than what we have internally.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're not required, technically, they're not required to submit a special event request unless it impacts city services or requires city services or something.
Right.
Could we reach out, we want to discuss at the next meeting, which would be our last chance.
Potentially, yeah.
So if we can touch base with her to see what her plans are, what she would like.
I did hear a lot of positive feedback from the catamarans this weekend.
Yeah.
Oh,
From the Catamaran Racing Association.
It looked like they had really good weather for it this year.
Yeah, they've just been striking out on weather, but they love the venue, they love the community, so, but I saw so many pictures, it looked fantastic.
I saw the fire pit that
Tall fire.
was over where they were camping at.
Well, we just finished that
Second one?
on the 4th of July, right?
So
That's a
that-
custom made one that
Yeah.
the Public Works built, and I wasn't sure where to put it. And when we were setting the stuff out for the catamarans, I'm like, oh, they always get a fire pit, give them that one, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know what the permanent home is, it's movable with equipment, but we thought that was a good inaugural spot.
They didn't use it, was a good look.
Good.
It's a,
So you're welcome to
use
enjoy
it.
it with a camp.
Yeah, yeah. Nice.
Anything else?
I think we should look into putting the crew that designed and worked on Scooby's landscape area there. They did a fantastic job. I don't know if, it looked like it all of a sudden appeared, but because the bridge was closed, there wasn't traffic going by. That's that barbecue place at the Milwaukee House.
Oh, yeah.
They're associated. And if you haven't been by there, you need to. And take the time to turn east on River Street and look what's behind the building and what all that stuff. Because a lot of the stuff that they performed and did was, is not visible from US 31.
Well, it looks like the pallets that are out there are Albert pavers too, so they must be doing a lot of patio work coming up.
Yep, it looks fantastic.
Yeah,
And I don't have any association with them around, I just really, really impressed with what took
A long
place
time
there.
coming, but it looks like it's gonna be good.
If we could just get the Little River community to work on the other side, that would be great.
Time will tell. Motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Aye.
When is the next meeting date?
It is August 20th.
August 20?